The rage towards Marjorie Taylor Greene within the Republican Party because of her aggravating and dangerous and harmful antics is reaching new heights. And this is really interesting. We've been discussing different people coming out and saying some harsh but accurate things about Marjorie Taylor Greene. And now I have for you a Republican senator who went nuclear on Marjorie in a fantastic moment that I'll play for you in just a second. Of course, if you're just hopping into this saga now, Marjorie Taylor Greene is this extreme and horrible MAGA Republican congresswoman, and she has been at the center of the political discussion lately because she's leading an effort to oust Speaker of the House Mike Johnson for being supportive of a few different things, one of them being Ukraine. Aid to Ukraine. People like and people such as Marjorie Taylor Greene are aggressively against supporting Ukraine amid Russia's invasion of their country. And so you'll see here the host of the CNN show that plays this clip, Aaron Burnett, explains a little bit of that context, and then you'll see the moment from Tom Tillis, who is a Republican senator and again is coming out aggressively against Marjorie Taylor Greene. And it's good to see. While you're watching this, please make sure you are subscribed to the YouTube channel by clicking the subscribe button. And then if you want to become a member to get the daily bonus show, all it takes is hitting the join button. We've shifted over from Patreon. Now we're just doing YouTube membership. So it's right there within the YouTube app or browser. Very simple and easy, but here it is.
Breaking news, desperately needed Ukraine aid looking like it is headed for final passage in the Senate tonight. Not a minute too soon. Ukraine has been outgunned on the battlefield now for a long time. The aid has been held up maybe in a way that cannot be made up for, held up by congressional hardliners on the right. And the most prominent of them is Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene, who's threatening to oust Speaker Mike Johnson for supporting this aid. And tonight, in a remarkable moment, the senior Republican senator is calling out his fellow Republican, saying that Greene's shenanigans could cost Republicans to lose control of Congress.
I think she's uninformed. She is a total waste of time. She is a horrible leader. She is dragging our brand down. She, not the Democrats, are the biggest risk to us getting back to a majority.
Now, those are incredible words. Sitting Republican Senator Manu Raju is out front live on Capitol Hill. And Manu, the bill is expected to pass.
Yes. So then they get into the specifics of this bill. I do have to say, before getting to other clips to play for you, something hits different about the phrase, she is a total waste of time. Not her stunts or her chaotic nature, none of that. Just she. Just referring to someone as a waste of time is pretty brutal, and you love to see it. He said, I think she's uninformed, a total waste of time. She's a horrible leader. She is dragging our brand down. Tom Tillis, your brand is more than being dragged down. Your brand is just absolutely obliterated. It's gone up in flames. She, not the Democrats, are the biggest risk to us getting back to a majority. Now, I do have to say that this is a part of a broader phenomenon, too, where a lot of Republicans lately, even some of the more MAGA ones, are expressing their belief that it may just be justified for them to lose their majority. And there, Tom Tillis is saying, if we lose our majority, it's because of people like Marjorie Taylor Greene and these sorts of antics, these sorts of stunts, and turning their political identity into purely one that's dedicated to getting themselves attention, getting themselves more followers on social media, and portraying themselves to the extreme part of the base as the most pure, the most litmus tested, perfect, and pure MAGA individual you could possibly have, instead of being dedicated to good governance that actually satisfies more Americans than just that little sliver of the country that loves to see this sort of stuff. And so we've heard from Chip Roy, for example, with a different criticism, but also saying, I can't name one thing that our majority has done. One thing. That clip we reviewed many times, which is true. Now, the overarching takeaway, and I'm sure these Republicans who are expressing this fear that they'll lose the majority wouldn't agree with this assessment necessarily from me, but this is what happens when you allow MAGA to take over your party so much. Because it's true, you've done nothing. Your majority is a complete failure. This current House of Representatives is the second least productive in American history. And that is because long ago, not that long ago, a few years ago, you allowed this Trumpism, this MAGA ideology to take so much control because you thought, oh, we'll let it pass. Trump's a goof and these MAGA figures will be in the spotlight for a second and then no longer be as powerful. And then that never happened. And they keep gaining more control in this Republican Party. And so in a sense, to people like Tom Tillis and other Republicans who are now really upset by the fact that Marjorie Taylor Greene is able to run their party into the ground and potentially lose their majority for them, that's a little bit on you. Because guess who's been speaking out against this crazy, crazy part of your party for some time? The Democrats. And you could have united with the sort of common sense portion of elected leaders and advocate on behalf of the common sense, reasonable, rational majority of the country and have rejected this extreme MAGA wing. But instead, you thought Trump would pass. You thought that it was politically advantageous to wait to aggressively speak out, and this is what you get. But the American people don't deserve this. And so that's why we have to work really hard to defeat people like Marjorie Taylor Greene. It's tough because in her case in particular, she happens to be in a very deep red district. Here is another example of another Republican senator, Mitt Romney, who's more in the habit of speaking out against MAGA, saying this.
What do you make of people like Marjorie Taylor Greene going after Mike Johnson, trying to push him out for the speakership because of this decision?
You know, there's some folks who try and get themselves as many tweets, as many followers as they can, a lot of sound and fury signifying nothing.
Yeah, and that's what this is about for Marjorie Taylor Greene and others. It's trying to be the best MAGA influencer that they can, sometimes at the detriment even of their own party. And if you're just caring about being perceived as the most hardliner and the most, like I said, sort of pure MAGA, then yeah, it makes sense that you want to be as dedicated to compromise and governing effectively and getting things done, even if it's not exactly what you would like. But that's not at all the thing that MAGA is dedicated to, and we've seen that all too often. Now, this infighting within the Republican Party is really bad for them going into an election. Because what is the political discourse about right now? Yeah, of course, Republicans are still attacking Democrats, but they're spending a lot of their breath and a lot of their airtime attacking each other. And that only serves Democrats when the message coming from Democrats is very much not, we shouldn't even be in the majority anyway. It's like we're hearing from a lot of Republicans. And so to give you the contrast, as this chaos is going on, Biden's able to be making his message clear. And so I do want to jump over to a few clips from a recent Biden event where he's going after Donald Trump.
By the way, remember when he was trying to deal with COVID, he said, just inject a little bleach in your veins. He missed it, all went to his hair.
And we looked at some moments. Biden's in a funny mood these days, my goodness. And then on a serious note, he makes this contrast clear.
You know, I've walked proudly in union picket lines, while at the same time Trump bashed unions from non-union shops. Are you surprised? Look, I want to sign the PRO Act into law. Trump said he'd veto it. Trump said he'd veto it. Beyond that, he supports a national right-to-work law, for God's sake.
Yeah, so Biden undeniably has been one of the most pro-labor, pro-union presidents in American history, and so he should be making that clear, especially when you contrast it with Donald Trump. And just think about, as Biden starts to sort of get his message out there, we've been talking about the difference between governance Biden and has a little bit more of a traditional govern quietly. People will see the results, but because of the current media landscape, people don't hear about the results properly. Or Trump tries to take credit for them, like saying the stock market is good right now because of him. Who knows? But now he's actually jumping into campaign mode, Biden, that is. And that's going to make a big difference. But as he does that, and then his surrogates are out there also making the case, that's sort of the unified message. Whereas, yes, Trump's attacking Biden constantly, and Trump's going after the Democrats, but he's also spending a lot of his time focused on describing how much of a victim he is, defending himself in these criminal trials, And then his surrogates, again, I'm not saying they're not attacking Democrats, but they're spending a lot of time attacking each other. And so while Marjorie Taylor Greene, to continue using her as an example, could be spending all of her time out there making the case for Trump and making the case for MAGA, like the counterparts of hers in the Democratic Party are doing for Biden. Instead, she's spending a lot of time, when I go through prepping for the show, looking at different interviews that she's doing, bashing her own party and going after Mike Johnson. And that is a really good scenario. Don't tell her. For Democrats. Here's one more moment from Biden.
We all grew up with folks who sort of looked down on us because of what our dads did. They weren't in business. They weren't executives. They weren't something special. But they are special. You know, but people like Donald Trump learned a different lesson. He learned the best way to get rich is inherit it. He learned that paying taxes was something working people did, not him. He learned that telling people you're fired was something to laugh about. Not in my household, not in my neighborhood. I mean it sincerely. No joke.
Now listen, what I care about is policy, right? So if Biden were saying all this and then the policy didn't match it, and there weren't policies that were dedicated to improving working Americans' lives, working class Americans' lives, then the rhetoric wouldn't matter, right? But it's the fact that it aligns, which is the important part, with those policy achievements. And I'll remind you that we just went over a video of a Trump supporter who said one of the reasons, he was talking about Obama for some reason, but I'm sure he feels the same way about Biden. One of the reasons that he likes Trump over Obama is that Obama looks down on people like him, whereas Trump would get down in the dirt with people like him. And I don't, what world are people living in where Trump's the candidate? Even just rhetorically, when you compare Biden's rhetoric and Trump's the candidate that would be willing to get down the dirt with you. I don't think so. Goodness gracious. Let me know what you thought of all that in the comments.